So I'm Katie and I'm a senior at Limbrook, which is in San Jose, California. And I went to the California State Summer School for the Arts, or CSSSA, in summer of 2018. So CSSSA is, like you said, a creative, or it's like an arts camp, and they have several different programs that you can do. So you can do like visual art, you can do creative writing, you can do dance, theater. So they have all different things that you can explore like in any field in the arts. So for me personally, I did creative writing because that's kind of my thing. I'm not into like visual art as much or performing arts, but I definitely met a lot of people who were. And it's just a really cool experience. And I was residential, it's a 4-week program. So you really get to know other people. And it's basically like they'll put you with other people who are in the same discipline as you, and you take a lot of like pretty intense classes. And a lot of them are the same classes that you're taking with everyone else in the program, but they'll split you up into smaller groups. And you also have the option of doing like an elective. So for me, I chose poetry as my elective because that's like mainly the thing that I focus in within creative writing. But you can also choose things like screenwriting, playwriting, or fiction, nonfiction, all those things. There's like so many options. And that's one of the reasons why I liked CSSSA when I was initially applying, because they just have so many options, and they also have an opportunity for you to do an interdisciplinary project, which is kind of like a performance or like project that you put together with people who are in different disciplines, like vocal or like instruments or visual art or anything like that. So it's a really cool opportunity to just like explore arts and all that. Yeah, so from what I remember, we had, so there were 4 weeks, and then each week you would focus for the core ones that everyone did in common. Each week you would focus on a different area. For example, like week 1 for me was fiction, but from some other people they had different ones since there's not enough space for everyone in every single class. So you spend about a week on each one of those, and you have that. I'm pretty sure you had that class like once every day, and then for the elective class that you choose, you also have that once every day. But you do have a few more like core workshops everyone goes to. They'll invite some like actual authors or people who have experience in like the industry. So they did invite like someone who wrote for Breaking Bad. So that was really cool. Like he showed us like a script and he taught us a lot of really useful techniques. So like workshops, then with like professionals or with the teachers that we have, since they're also like really good at what they do. So that's kind of how it's structured out. You do have a lot of free time, and there's a lot of events going on that you have the opportunity to kind of do to, I guess, explore your art more, but it's really up to you. And I think the experience is really cool because you really get out of it as much as you want to, and however much you like try to take advantage of those is however much you'll get out of that program. Yeah, so I really love my experience there. I probably should have mentioned this, but it is in Southern California. It's in Valencia, which is pretty close to LA. And they actually have an optional trip to Disneyland, which is like maybe, I think it costs maybe like a couple $100s to go because it's like bus and like ticket and all that stuff. You can also go to the Getty Museum, which is also in LA. So it's like pretty close to all those areas. And in terms of the residential experience, I really liked it. I had 3 roommates. Some people have 4 people, so it just depends. But when you apply, like or not when you apply, when you're registering after you're accepted, they'll ask you like, what kind of things do you want in a roommate? How would you describe yourself? So for me, I said I wanted people who were social, but I'm also really big on like organization, and I kind of like having my own free time and just like time to chill afterwards as well. So that's something that I liked. And my roommates were really great. They were all, one of my roommates was in theater and the other one was in film. So it was really nice having people with different disciplines, and we would kind of like go to each other's events and kind of meet other people who are in the other disciplines. So that was really nice. Yeah, and in terms of dining, the food there was like pretty good. Like after I got home after the camp, I was like, I miss the food so much. Like I want to make that like at home. And in terms of like other social activities, they do have like a dance, and there's like open mics, performances like every single day. There's always something to do. They have like a full schedule, and you just like pick and choose what you want to do if you want to go out to those events. And like I said, optional trips like museums, Disneyland. And we also had a trip to a play and a performance at the Hollywood Bowl, which is really cool. So it's also like an opportunity to explore Southern California, especially if you're not from the area. Yeah, I think I pretty much covered like everything that I liked about it. But just like to kind of be a little bit more concise, I think the best thing that I got from that program was like um, probably just like that sense of like interdisciplinary community within the arts, because in the area where I'm from, like the Silicon Valley, there's not that many people who are in the arts. And so for me, like being someone who kind of leans more towards the humanities, it's kind of hard to find a community of people who also have those interests. But I really liked that there were a bunch of people who were like so passionate about writing versus like at home where everyone is just kind of in the same areas in STEM. And now I still talk to a lot of people that I met at camp, and we really support each other. One of my friends recently published like her first book, and all of us bought it, and we kind of just like shared it around social media. So that's like really cool. So I would say that's probably like the best, even though there's like so many things that I liked about it. I don't know. I think I kind of wish there were like more of those workshops that I talked about, because there were like kind of set dates where they would, like I said, invite people who are already in the industry. But I kind of wish that there were more of those, which like there were already, like I already learned a lot from those, which is like really nice. But I think having more of those to kind of like fill up my time probably would have made me like even more productive. But honestly, like it wasn't that huge of a deal. Like it was really cool to meet the people that I did have the chance to talk to already. So that's probably like the only thing that I might want to change about it, I guess. Honestly, just like word of mouth. Like I heard about it from my school. There was like, I don't actually know anyone from my school who went, but I think like in the state of California, most high schools will promote it. So there were some flyers at my school. And at the time, this was like in my freshman year, so I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I knew that I liked writing a lot. And I knew that I wanted a way to kind of explore that more over the summer, possibly like residential, to kind of give myself that experience of living away from home and kind of just like managing for myself. So those were kind of like my only like criteria going in, I guess. Um, so I would say what drew I didn't apply to any other camps because I at the time like I didn't want this to be too serious, because I knew a lot of my friends were going to summer camps at like the Ivies or other like really big colleges, but I felt like I didn't want to make that big of like a financial commitment to this, since it was like not it was mainly for like my own enjoyment, and my parents were also like I don't think they wanted to spend that much money on a program that wasn't STEM related. So this was pretty much like my only option. But the good thing about this is that it's also very affordable. So like for anyone who's worrying about finances, it's very, very affordable. And they also have really good financial aid if you can't afford it. But it's like $2,000 for 4 weeks, which is like way better than any other programs that I've seen. And aside from that, I like that it was in California, because at that time I wasn't really comfortable going like all the way to the East Coast or even out of the country. And yeah, other things I just researched online and saw some like alumni talking about it on YouTube, and just a community and like being in that area, especially like near LA, which is like where a lot of like screenwriters and all those like creative people really have a chance to grow. I think that's something else that I really liked about the program. So they did really good marketing, and yeah, kind of really liked everything that I heard about it. So that's why I applied. So this was my first residential experience. So honestly, going in, I didn't know what to expect at all, and it definitely like surpassed my expectations by a lot. I think going in, I was kind of afraid of having like imposter syndrome, because like for me, I had done like fairly well in writing, and like growing up, my teachers and like my parents would be like, "Oh, like you're such a good writer," but like none of them were actually like English people. So it's like I wasn't sure if they were just saying that to like make me feel better, or if like I was actually like decent at it. So I was really scared going in, like thinking like they made a mistake accepting me, or like I shouldn't have gotten in. So I was really scared that like everyone at the camp would be like kind of like uptight and like really, really good at writing. But I think in reality, it was not like that at all. Like everyone is so talented, and they're like very willing to share like everything. And for me, like I would help other people would help me. So it's really like a community. And I think going in, I didn't know that it would be such a welcoming environment, especially with a bunch of upperclassmen, since most of the people that I met were juniors or seniors. Some people were even like in there the summer after their senior year, so they were like way older than me, and I was like intimidated, but it turned out to be a really good growing experience. And like I said, I still talk to a lot of them. And then in terms of like the residential experience, I think going in, I was also just scared of living away from home, because I'd never done that before. And like, you know, little things like doing laundry, like getting food, all that stuff. Like I was scared that I would completely like lose it. But like I think after the first couple of days, we kind of like figured out a rhythm, and my roommates were like really, really good with everything. So honestly, I had no complaints in that area. So it was like a lot better than I thought it would be. And most of the things that I was scared of like never came true. So that's good. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's for I think on their website they say 9 to 12, but you can also go like the summer after 12th. So that's like technically the range, but almost everyone there was like at least like well, not at least, almost everyone there was 1 to 2, maybe 3 years older than me, which is like not a bad thing. I think, especially with things like artistic skills and all that, like I think age doesn't really make you like better or worse than anyone. So I think I was intimidated going in at first, but after like a few days of talking to these people, I didn't feel like I was scared of any of the seniors, and I don't think they like looked down on me because I was like a freshman or a sophomore at that time. So I think it was kind of interesting how like you really become friends with people you wouldn't have at school, because especially at my school and probably at other high schools, like freshmen don't really talk to seniors, and it's kind of weird if you're like close friends with a senior. But at camp, it was like we would all just like hang out, and it was totally normal. So that was a really good thing. And so yeah, I don't think like being too young or like too old for this program should stop anyone from applying. Like even if you're the summer after senior year, I think it's still worth it to go if you really want to. So it's really up to you and like whatever you want to do with your time. Yeah, I definitely thought it was worth it. And like I said, it's like super affordable. And I mean, I'm really lucky to be living in this area, and my family was able to afford the full cost of the tuition. And I would say that it's definitely a lot cheaper than a lot of the other programs that people tend to go to. So it's super affordable. And if you end up developing like a really close relationship with your mentors at camp, and you really show that you're outstanding, sometimes they'll give you like a retrospective scholarship. So it's kind of, I had one friend in the writing program who actually got that. He was paying full tuition, but they ended up giving him a scholarship because he was like super accomplished with writing. So he ended up getting like most of his money like back, I guess. But even if you don't do that, I think 4 weeks of like really, really good experiences is definitely worth the money that you pay for the camp. And I would say like it's like I can't believe I actually came across an opportunity like that where I didn't have to spend like a ton of money to get this really good experience. So I'm really happy that I did it. I feel like for me, it did really help me because when I was applying to college, like I guess you could say like themes or like my spikes in my application were definitely like creative writing, and also like my interests in like activism and all that. So CISA was definitely more related to like the creative writing part. And the camp, like any camp by itself, doesn't do anything for your application. But like the fact that I had that camp in addition to other things I'd done really showed like my commitment to creative writing. And especially because I'm applying as a humanities major, that's like really important since there's not like any particular thing that you can do. You can't really show like scores for your writing. So the fact that you're dedicating yourself to a program like this, especially since it was 4 weeks in residential and it was at like a pretty well-known college, like California Institute of the Arts has a lot of people who end up working for like Disney and other like pretty big artistic companies. So I would say it's like pretty reputable. And I'm pretty sure most college admissions officers will know what CISA is. Or you can, even if they Google it really quickly, it'll definitely come up. So it's a decent amount of prestige, but it won't get you in on its own. You definitely have to do the work. But I would say that kind of like a side effect that helped me even more was that a lot of the pieces that I worked on in CISA, or some of the pieces that I brought to the camp to workshop a little bit more, I ended up submitting those to like writing competitions, and they ended up like winning some more things, which like winning isn't the only goal, right? Like those were things that I really wrote for myself. It wasn't like I had a competition. I was like, oh, I have to write something. And now it was like, I just submitted whatever I have. And it's like, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, it's like not that big of a deal, but it definitely helps a little bit if you do have those things, just to kind of show like a level where you're at. I do think that it helped me somewhat, both directly and indirectly. So I applied ED to Cornell and I got in. Based on my acceptance, it doesn't hurt. And I ended up writing about a lot of the things. I didn't write about the camp itself, but it did inspire a lot of things that I wrote about in my essays. So it's not only like the camp itself, but also like the experience and the things that you take away from it. And it really just like changes your view of everything in terms of like writing, and also just like people and your relationship with like people in other areas of the world, and really understanding like what it's like to go outside of your bubble, like wherever you happen to live. When I applied, I think the acceptance rate was about 1/3. So it's not like that bad, but also like you do have to show like a decent amount of proficiency with whatever you're applying for. So I can only speak for writing since like every art discipline is so different. And obviously with things like theater, you have to like audition and like I am not familiar with that process at all. But in terms of writing and probably also visual art, I think because I looked at that application too for one of my friends, they ask you to submit like a lot of pieces. So for me, I think I submitted probably like at least 5 or 6 samples of my writing. They'll ask for and you have to do it. It's like you can't just like pick and choose. They'll ask for like, for example, a poem, a short story, fiction, nonfiction, and then like a script, like a play script or something like that. So it's like a variety of things, and you have to have a very diverse portfolio. So if you do want to get in, I would say start early and just like go nuts with it. Like be as creative as you can. Definitely like with an arts camp, especially, you don't want to be cookie cutter. You don't want to sound like you're writing an essay because that's not what a creative writing program is for. Like you really want to be like totally like different from everyone else. Um, and yeah, the starting early thing definitely good since there's so many like excerpts. And for me, I did not start early and I ended up being very I actually submitted my application like exactly like 1 minute before the thing closed. So not a good idea, but I got it through and I got in. But if you don't want to go through that stress, start early, just like have everything submitted. And like I think that way you'll feel better about what you submitted and that way you're not like kind of debating like which one of these should I submit, and also get someone to look over it because I asked my English teachers at school to look over it and their feedback was pretty helpful, especially when I was debating like which pieces I should submit for my sample since sometimes your perception is a little bit different. But yeah, other than that, there's not like I guess any checklist that you have to do to get in, just like whatever you have been doing. Don't do anything just for the application, but submit things that you've really been doing like just on your own for your own enjoyment.